Hello and welcome to another episode of the Meaningful Marketing Podcast. I'm your host, Chantal Gerardy, and I'm super excited today to have one of my dear friends and clients, Damian Murdoch, with us today. He is a mindset coach and he also runs a program called Taking Charge of Your Anxiety, which focuses on athletes and public speakers who really need to learn how to handle those big moments or kind of fall under pressure. It's so awesome to have you here today, Damian. Thank you.
Yeah, thanks, Chantal. Great to be here.
So tell us, because I know your personal story, but I think it's so important to let everybody know that this is something close and dear to your heart because it is something that you have lived through yourself and had to manage yourself. So tell us a bit about your story and how you actually got into becoming a mindset coach.
Well, it started with public speaking, really. I was absolutely petrified of it. So I was okay as a kid, but then a few things happened as a teenager and I developed this fear of it. And then I had a panic attack in a sales meeting when I was working in London. And out of that just scared me and I just avoided it at all costs after that. And yeah, I actually couldn't get words out. When I say, I was petrified. It was like a full body, just heart beating out of the chest. And I just have to remove myself from the room if I knew that there was a chance that I'd get asked and just knock back all opportunities to MC weddings or talk to schools or whatever it might be.
Yeah, I do love that though, because there was something there that you recognized and that you recognized that having that fear and having that anxiety was actually going to stop you from having or being able to maximize those opportunities in your life. For me personally, I am scared of heights. I say I respect heights. I respect heights.
Right?
I like to reframe it. And a hot air balloon was one of those things that I'd look at and go, oh, this looks amazing. I just want to get in a hot air balloon and I just want to do it and it just looks amazing. And then I'm like, I can't even stand at the edge of a railing without absolutely like losing my breath, my body, my everything.
Yeah.
And for me, it was like, I did the same thing. I just went, I don't want to lose out on the opportunity of going in a hot air balloon because of this thing. And the other thing was I looked at all these other things, kids, old grannies, and other people. And I was like, I'm supposed to be brave and fearless and whatever. Like, this is ridiculous. If they can do it, I should be able to do it. So obviously I went and got some hypnosis. I went and did some breathwork around it and I was able to go on a hot air balloon. I was able to stand at the edge and look over it. So I absolutely love, I think that you mentioned there, it was an awareness about opportunities, not wanting to miss out on opportunities.
Yeah, it was definitely that because I was in business and I couldn't get up and speak to people. So, and you're always trying to hide this as well. You're trying to, you get really good at avoiding situations where you might get asked to speak publicly. So it's just continually on your mind. But then for me, it got worse than that because my comfort zone closed in and it got to the stage where I was getting those panic reactions ordering lunch. And then it got to the stage where I was getting those leaving the house. And so my whole life was shut down, basically.
Yeah,
So
wow.
Yeah.
So correct me if I'm wrong in this, because you're obviously the expert in this, but I've got a rescue puppy called Tommy. And he has a deregulated nervous system, okay?
Right.
Besides the fact that he's a Jack Russell cross and they're known for this sort of thing. And when I was doing some research around it, they were saying that unmanaged, it gets worse. So you know how you said how you couldn't get up and speak at meetings and then when it was ordering lunch. So what we noticed with little Tommy was that it would happen when I'd leave the house. But if we just ignored it and actually didn't manage those situations, by the end of the day, he would have 20 to 30 other episodes. And it could even just be like circling my other dog, Ziggy, and just like licking Ziggy's ear constantly. Like he'd have this nervous reaction where I had to constantly like lick Ziggy's ear. And when I did the research, they were saying, if you don't actually stop him from doing it and give him techniques to actually break that habit, those habits will become even more.
Yeah, that's what happens. With anxiety, like public speaking, for example, there's a footballer called Tom Boyd who's really famous. He was like the highest paid player in the country and then he had to retire at age 23. And he talks about this, like how it starts with you get really nervous in front of 1,200 people talking, then it becomes 200, then it becomes 50 and that your comfort zone sort of closes in on you. And that's what happened to him. Like it was before big games, then it became before training sessions and then it just got worse and worse for him and he had to give the game away. So that's what happens. I don't like scaring people with that, but it is a reality, and that's what happened with me. It was my comfort zone. It was public speaking at first, but then it became, even at barbecues, I noticed any more than about 6 people, and it became something else for me, and my body had these reactions. Like I said, ordering lunch, and then it became, you go to leave the house and you're getting that reaction walking out the front door, and that's pretty bad when it gets to that stage.
Yeah, so I'm going to say that your why must have been pretty big, your why to overcome this. Because at the end of the day, it comes down to choices, right? You have a choice. You get to make a decision about whether or not you're going to do nothing about it or whether or not you're going to do something about it. So you must have a big why in order to overcome that. Do you know what that big why was or is?
Yeah, I mean, I had a business in my hometown and I had big ambitions for it,
Okay.
yeah. And there was things that I wanted to do in the world. And so I still, when I was going through that period, where I couldn't leave the house, I was going through periods of deep depression, but then there was other times where you felt really good and you still had these ambitions that were driving you on, but then you go to leave the house and you've got that panic reaction and it just stops you in your tracks. It's hard to, even if you've got those ambitions, when you're having that panic reaction, it's pretty hard to maintain the faith, I suppose.
Yeah, it would be because it becomes debilitating. You literally can't move, right?
Yeah,
It's
just
like,
your
what do they
life's
call
just-
that? Freeze, flight.
Yeah, well,
fall?
that's freeze, yeah.
Yeah, freezing. So
Yeah.
you literally can't do anything. You can't move.
Yeah, and that's what used to happen in public speaking. It'd just be like literally, it gets stuck here. It was
Yeah. Wow.
just couldn't, your body's just totally frozen, but my heart would be beating out my chest, yeah.
So I had something similar happen to me in Cape Town. I was in Cape Town. There was Table Mountain, and we didn't have time to climb Table Mountain. But next to Table Mountain is Lion's Head, and Lion's Head is it's not like Australia here where you've got like safety rails and safety like it's literally it's up and you're hanging over the cliff. And I was walking, and I just had the last third to go, and I literally became legless.
Yeah.
I was stuck against the wall and I could not move. Like my heart rate was going. I was up against the wall. I had to sit, and there were little kids running along the path past me, little old grannies running past me, and I could not move. I just had to sit there and breathe and try to get like energy or oxygen back into my body.
Yep.
And I actually couldn't progress. I couldn't go any further. I had to turn around, which I didn't like doing because I don't like to sort of quit as such.
Yeah.
But it's obviously something that I'm on an ongoing basis work towards doing. And we'll talk a bit about that later through scheduled suffering. But it's stuff that I'm constantly working on doing because I want to be that mountain goat running up the pathway up the mountain and seeing the top of the mountain. Like I have that aspiration of doing it, which is awesome. So let's talk about athletes and public speaking.
Yep.
Because at the end of the day, like for me, it's around those athletes, they've got a goal. Those public speakers, they've got a big why to put a message out to the world and change people's lives, right?
Yep.
So both of them, they're on a mission. They've got a big why. Now they're in front of everyone. They've got all this expectation, either they're putting on themselves or they feel like other people are putting on them as well.
Yep.
And now they're having to step out and perform in that moment.
Yep.
So what are some of the things that could happen in those moments for public speakers and for like, how does it usually play out for them?
Right. So you've heard of imposter syndrome?
Yep.
Yeah. So I think that's quite well known now, and the stats for that are huge.
Yeah.
It's like 60, 70% or something. And imposter syndrome is that belief that you're not good enough, not worthy to be in that position that you're in, and that it's a matter of time before that will get exposed, right? So with the big moments with sport, public speaking, whatever it might be, if you've got a belief that's wired in your body, that's what gets triggered in the first place, right? So then that belief gets triggered, chemicals are released as a result of that. You've got cortisol rushing to your muscles. So you imagine like a sportsman, you get cortisol into the muscles tighten, and now you just can't execute skills, We've got the Australian Open starting shortly, like when we're recording this, and you watch how many times the commentators talk about the players tightening up, and that's what we call choking, when they tighten up and they can't execute their skills. Right, and it comes down to, it starts with that belief that they haven't got the belief that they're good enough in that moment, right? So that's what separates the really good players from the next rung. It's just this unshakable belief that they've got. So they don't get triggered into that anxiety. They don't have that cortisol response.
And that's why this mindset coaching is such a huge player for performance for athletes, right?
Eventually, like I teach skills to handle the symptoms, the moments, but eventually it gets down to what are your beliefs, because that's what's getting triggered. The other thing too is the meaning that they're putting on situations, right? So again, if we use the tennis example, a player can be dominating like 2 sets up, and then they're serving for the match and they freeze up because they've changed the meaning on what that game is. Now it's not just another service game. They've turned it into something. They've gone into the future and gone, oh, imagine if I win, or they've gone to the past and thought, oh, I remember that time where I lost in this situation. So they've changed the meaning. They've gone out of the moment and changed the meaning of what that game is. Because really all they do is step up and execute the serves that they've been doing for decades, you know what I mean? But instead, in that moment, they go out to the future or to the past and sort of, lose the plot and drag the ball into the net and double fault. And, you watch it, it'll be time and time again, the Australian Open. And it's the same with public speaking. So it's like one of my favourite stories that I tell is when I was just starting to become a bit more confident, and I spoke to about 30 people. It was the biggest crowd that I'd talked to at that stage. And I got into it and there was just a look on a guy's face. He had this look like that. And in my head, I've gone, oh, he thinks I'm an idiot. Yeah. And then I've gone into this story about, oh, yeah, everyone probably thinks so. And while I'm trying to give a speech, my mind's gone into that, right? All by the meaning that I put on that guy's face, right? And then so my energy dropped away. I got through it, but it wasn't what it could have been. But then he was the one that came up and talked to me afterwards and asked questions, right? So I've put the meaning on it that he thinks I'm an idiot, where that was actually his interested face. Yeah. So it was like, so it was a real lesson for me. Just be careful on what meaning you're putting on things. Yeah.
I love that. Yeah. I know like when I go onto stage, I have to firstly not over prepare, because I know over preparing makes me get into my head.
Yep.
I also know that I've got to change my state and I've got to do some breathing just to clear everything and stay grounded, so I'm more in my body and less in my head.
Yep.
And then the same thing is I'm very conscious of the fact that for me, when I go out on stage, I think people are judging me.
Yep.
And I have that imposter syndrome as well. And what if I forget my words?
Yep.
And what if people don't like what I've got? And then what if that destroys my business? And then what if I don't get another speaking gig? And it's like, and it gets out of control. And then how the hell are you actually supposed to perform for the audience? So for me, like one of the things that I do now is I go, this is not about me. This is about me being able to help whoever's in front of me. So be more grounded and be more present with who those people that are there right now and the value that I can give. And then I've also had the opposite, and I'm being completely vulnerable here, guys, as well. I'm sharing all my stuff, but vulnerability as well. Like I have this relationship with significance. And it's like my need for significance, and it's like, and that obviously steps into ego as well. So for me, it's not about, like I go out there and I try to overperform because I want people to like me.
Yeah.
So I like overperform. I want to change their lives. I want to change their businesses. I want to, whatever. And that's my need for significance and for ego, rather than going, hold on, I need to meet people where they're at. And it's not about that, just break it all down, slow it all down, and just deliver what's palatable at the moment.
Yeah.
So, but that's all awareness, like stuff that I've had to work on as a public speaker.
Yeah, and I think it's really important to realise all that self-talk that you were talking about, like, it's going to destroy your business. Yeah. It's important to realise that that's your brain's job, is to actually show you all the dangers, all the things that can go wrong. And it's your brain's job to keep you in your comfort zone. So that's what it's trying to do there. So it's a matter of like, once you're aware of that, once you have that awareness you're talking about, you can sort of learn to laugh at the way that the brain does that, right? And I think that carries over to business as well. Like with business people, what holds a lot of people back, I'm very aware of this, is things like, what would you say, like doing videos, those tough things outside the comfort zone?
Sales calls.
Sales calls, exactly.
Following up with sales calls. There's a fear of
rejection, like that, and what that means about you if you get rejected, right?
Yeah. People are more likely to go and rebrand, change their offer, change their pricing. And this is a common thing that I see often. And that is all because they don't want to do the part that they don't like doing.
Yep.
And that is, they are going out, they are being visible, they may be generating leads, but because they don't want to actually go out and email them or follow up. They go, oh, I don't want to bother them. Oh, what if they don't like me? Or what if they don't want to buy? What if they don't like my product? What if they say no? What if, And for me, that's one of the biggest things that I see like on a daily basis with what I do. Yeah.
I just need to learn this one more thing. I just need to
Yeah.
have one more service.
Yeah, 100%.
I know all about that.
Yeah,
because that's your brain convincing you that you're not ready yet.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
My
It's
gosh.
like that's because it wants to keep you comfortable, and that plays out in everything that we do in life. And I think once you've realised that, your brain's really not there to keep you happy. It's mainly a threat detection system, and so it's there to keep you comfortable. So once you know that, you can then recognise that it's doing that, and then push past that. Yeah, with the skills that I teach.
Yeah, so what you were talking about there was people who are constantly upskilling themselves, and they're constantly doing courses and educating themselves on various aspects in their business, and they're constantly changing from one thing to the next thing to the next thing, but they never actually apply anything. So I call that shelf help, because they're literally like all they're doing is learning all the time but not implementing. And it happens all the time, and I'm very conscious, and I bring that into when I'm working, especially one-on-one with clients. I'll go, okay, hold on a sec. The rule is that if you pay and do a course, only after you've actually implemented that do you then go on and do another course. Like that's the rule. You have to make these rules for yourself. Else you're constantly spending hours and hours and hours and hours and hours each week learning but not implementing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I recently found these videos I did back in 2015, right? I did this anxiety month thing, and I look back and I thought, because I thought I was horrible back then, I thought they're actually pretty good. And I look back and I was ready then. But what happened was I got this amazing support. Like one of my videos got shared by 60 people, and that was just amazing to me. But all it took was one girl told me that I didn't understand anxiety and I shouldn't be, like I got criticism from one person. And that just put me straight back into my box for years. Yeah. Learning more stuff and learning exactly what you're talking about there.
Yeah. So I transitioned, from owning gyms, from, being in the health, wellness and fitness industry. So I had all these gyms. That was my business. And everyone said, oh, Chantal, you should stick to business and marketing and stuff for health, wellness and fitness professionals. What do you know as a marketer? And at that point, I was going into becoming a Facebook strategist. And that probably delayed me for about 2 years.
Yeah.
And then one day I woke up and I went, all I need to know is more than the person that I'm speaking to, and that person has to value it and want to pay me for it.
Yeah.
And when I did that, I was like, hold on a sec. I've actually, like the information I've been sharing, people have valued and asked me for and are happy to pay for it. Well, so I just looked at that. So I think awareness is a really important thing.
Yeah, because it holds people back. That's where that procrastination comes in with business, and then unhappiness, unfulfillment, all that sort of thing comes from that, because you know that you're not doing the thing that you need to do to get the goal that you want to achieve. You're actually your brain's just convincing you that, oh no, I just need to do this.
And I'm going to say one last thing, because it's so important, but that's also pricing. Because another thing that it comes to clients is that when we discuss prices and they're like charging way too little, they're actually deflecting clients by charging way too little or not attracting the right clients. And that's their beliefs around money as well that's actually holding them back from doing that. And only when they're comfortable can they then start putting up their prices. So that's another thing that I have to deal with on an ongoing basis.
Yeah, it's a comfort zone. It's a big thing.
Yeah,
I'm massive on it.
Comfort zone. So let's go into this thing that you've got, which is called scheduled suffering. And without even, thinking about it or knowing this or understanding this concept, it's something that I've been doing. Beginning of last year, I went and I did canyoning. Now, I've just mentioned I do not like heights. So why would I be abseiling, jumping, sliding, and abseiling and ziplining off canyons for hours and hours and hours if I'm actually scared of heights? Like, why do I go and put myself in that position? Or why did I go to the Philippines twice now and walk the Zodiac Falls, which are 13 waterfalls that you climb up the middle of without any ropes or help? Like, why the hell do I do all of that stuff? And I didn't realize it, but Damian's put a title on it. It's called Scheduled Suffering. So tell us about scheduled suffering.
Well, the comfort zone was very important to me, because when I was in the depths, I was going to see psychologists for years and just waiting for something to happen, waiting for it to get better. But then I realised I had to work it out myself, and I went to uni, learn about the body, and then I went more into the mind, NLP, which you know about, hypnosis, all that sort of thing, learn a lot about that. But when I look back, the most important things for me was these situations, these courses I did, which were a bit outside the box. But when I look back now, it was just huge. Scheduled suffering. Like, it was like jumping out of a plane with a company called Scary and Exciting, but they taught you how to skydive without an adrenaline response, right? So how not to get, because most of us do it for the adrenaline, but most of the people there were scared of heights, right? And it was to get them over their fear of heights, right? So it was things like that. And then breathing, ice baths, all the Wim Hof stuff I did. Got into free diving, which is, you're holding your breath underwater. And that's where I realised that the panic attacks, that if people don't understand what a panic attack is, hold your head underwater, right? Because you get that anxiety and then you go into that panic. And I realised that was the feeling that I get when I'm public speaking and so on. So I did all these things that were right outside your comfort zone, but they teach you skills to overcome that discomfort and the nerves and to push through it. And so now that's something that I love. There's this quote from Tim Ferriss that I love. He says, the more you schedule and practice suffering, the less unplanned suffering will disrupt your life, right? Yeah, so that's what it's about. It's about putting yourself in situations where you get that stress response, that shock to your body. So I'm thinking about, something as simple as cold showers, but ice baths, fast breathing. You've done fast breathing. So when, that's uncomfortable, your brain wants you to stop doing that.
Yeah.
And breath holds, public speaking, comedy was one big one for me.
I know. Well, tell us about that, because one of the scheduled suffering things that you did, I mean, as somebody who has had anxiety with speaking, you went and did a comedy course, right?
Yeah. So I'd done Toastmasters, and they're very good at that comfort zone. They just add a little bit, just keep nudging you outside your comfort zone. So I did that. Then I did public speaking, and then it got to the stage where I'd learnt all this stuff, from NLP and mindset coaching, results coaching, all that sort of thing. I knew all this stuff, and I just wanted to test it in the most extreme way that I could. And I saw this poster for a comedy course, so I just knew that I had to do that. So that was scheduled suffering. Like, even just turning up there every week to the class was scheduled suffering for sure. But I used all the skills that I'd learnt to overcome those nerves.
Yeah.
And on the actual night, I needed every one of those skills to actually get up and perform, but I got through it. And we're talking about that self-talk before. Like, I was the first one after the interval, and I remember, like, I was actually feeling okay, but I looked out the window and that voice started, and it wasn't, sometimes it screams at you, but this was just, you got nothing to prove to these people. Just walk down the stairs. You can just go. And in the past, I would have done that.
Yeah.
But I had that awareness that we were talking about before, and it was just like, I just laughed at it and then used the skills that I learnt to get back in state and then get up there. And when I got called, I was just, in that performance state. So that's what I teach people now, is that, when you put yourself in a situation of scheduled suffering, and then you use the skills that you learned to cope with that feeling in the body, right? So once you become, because what happens when you put that shock on your body, the frontal cortex shuts down, the thinking part of your brain. Now you're back in the primal parts of the brain, right? And you're just reactive, right? So with scheduled suffering, you get used to that feeling in your body. You're able to remain calm. The frontal cortex comes back online, and you're able to make good decisions, right? So you're able to choose your response rather than be reactive, right? So you think about all the areas in your life where you can apply that to your relationships, to your business, customers, traffic, kids, all sorts of stuff. Once you're in charge of your emotional state, once you're resilient to that feeling, those emotions, then that's where real confidence comes from. Because when you're comfortable in discomfort, yeah, that's you carry.
And
that
so many
as a
people are
confidence.
avoiding that. Just so many people avoid it. Yeah. I mean, I went back to the Philippines this year to run the Zodiac Falls again.
Yep.
Well, not run it. I literally crawled the first year. I had scratches all over my legs because I was hugging the waterfall as I was pulling myself up,
Yep.
and I could barely breathe. The second time that I went, I ran up those waterfalls. I even jumped off some of those waterfalls. So I went back to do it again because I wanted to have progress.
Yep.
I wanted to feel the feelings of progress. And I was like, all that breath work I've done all year and all that mindset stuff has made this so much easier for me.
And how'd you feel after it?
Oh, just amazing. I was like, these waterfalls are so tiny compared to what they looked like when I first did it. I was like, and we did it in the rain the second time as well. Like it was bucketing down with rain. So
yeah, but you're looking back on that as a highlight of your life now, yeah?
Yeah.
Because you're proud of yourself. Like there's this quote from a guy called Stuart Brand that I love. He says, being proud is the most reliable source of happiness I know. You know what I mean? So for a lot of people who, there's 1.3 million Australians on antidepressants, right?
Yeah.
But when you're proud of yourself, it's different chemicals in the brain,
And that scheduled suffering is going to bring about that confidence and you being proud of yourself.
Totally, yeah.
Love that.
When you push past your edge, what you think, you think you're capable of this, you can't get through that. But when you push past that, you're like, well, I didn't think I could get here. So where else am I selling myself short in other areas of my life? What am I capable of? You know what I mean? It just opens up your whole world. So
well, I went to Bali afterwards, and then it was like, what adventures stuff are we going to do in Bali? And again, I always put myself in those positions. I'm not a natural at it. I don't massively enjoy it. And river rafting was one of that. I've never done it before. We did a medium grade, whatever it's called, down the thing or whatever. And I was like, this is easy. I was like, I should have gone for a harder one.
Yeah.
So, and it's because I do this stuff. So, I love that. Love it, love it,
You're
love it.
living the schedule suffering life.
I live in the schedule. Yeah, it's so good. So I just want to talk about state quickly. So Damian lives in Noosa. He's just come down to the Gold Coast to see me. We went out for dinner, and I also took him to go and have a look at the Empower You program. It's a 2-day program for teens. It's kind of like a Tony Robbins for teens. And it is absolutely epic. And of course, with Damian and what he's interested in, I said, come along, have a look and that. And they always talk about changing your state. And one of the things we're watching or saw on the day was the breaking of the board and how they prepped all the kids with, getting them to change their state in order to be able to, push through and, break the boards. And there's various different methods to do that. They did this like clapping 3 times kind of thing, sort of jumping and clapping 3 times. I went to Tony Robbins and he had like his special way of doing it. I think it was like walk through a door and like, how would you walk through a door? Walk through the door like the person you want to be. I think that was the Tony Robbins kind of thing. I went to a breathwork retreat and their one was like have a pose. So like 1, 2, 3 pose.
Yep.
And for me, for changing my state is I jump up and down. I close my eyes. I definitely have to close my eyes. I don't want to see anyone else because suddenly then I feel judgment. So when I close my eyes, I'm now stepping into myself and grounding. So grounding is really important. Jumping on the spot, closing my eyes. And then another thing that I do is I go like gratitude. So thank everyone for the opportunity, the people that got me to that point. Thank them for the opportunity of having the speaking event. Thank the people in the audience for listening to me, for what's about to happen. And then I go through, in order to empower myself, I go through all my reviews and all the people, like I visualize all the people that I've worked with, all of them and all the nice things that they've said and all the reviews that they've written, so that I can be empowered. And then obviously like I do, once I jump up and down and I do all of that, then I start, do some breath work, some calming stuff and ground. So that's kind of like me sort of getting into state before I go onto stage, What would you recommend or some of the techniques that you'd recommend?
Well, I talk about resetting, right? It's a skill called resetting. So when we use, say the example we used before with tennis.
Yeah.
So it's about forgetting what happens in the future. If I stuff this up, you're talking about your stuff as well. Forget about that. Forget about last time you were here and you might have got it wrong as well. You got to bring your mind back to what do I need to do right now, and that's the key to performance. Really, is just to focus on who I need to be right now. So it's resetting, coming back to the present moment, and then using your body language, your self-talk, and your focus. Right, and you've sort of talked about all those things there with what you were talking about, and it's the same with breaking the board as well. So using your body language, your breath. Remember they were talking about
Yeah.
breathing when they're breaking the board. So it's like using your breath to regulate, using your eyes are actually really important. So if you're trying to relax, when you're worked up, your eyes are actually laser focused. You know, you think back in the day when you're laser focused on the predator or whatever it was.
Yeah.
So if you want to be the opposite, if you want to be calm, you just relax your eyes. You expand your awareness rather than having them hyper focused. And then using your posture and your movement, put a smile on your face. And then your self-talk, because what are you saying to yourself? You're telling yourself all the reasons why you can't, or you're telling yourself the reasons why you can. And then the third thing is your focus. So focus on what you want. And when they're breaking the board, you know, they're really strong on that in Empower You. You know, it's like your focus has to be right on the board and past the board, right? So it's like putting your focus on, I talk about having the focus on what you want, the outcome that you want, and then who you need to be to get that. And then the next thing is just what's the next action I need to take.
Yeah, excellent. So good. So many good gems there to be able to support the listeners today. So let's get into the nitty gritty then of the marketing. So you've worked with me now through 2 programs.
Yep.
I don't know how many years it's been now. Like, do you know how many years it's been?
4, maybe 4 or 5.
Yeah, wow. It's
Yeah.
a long time. So the first time was really, we set up a webinar funnel. It was all around,
Yeah.
visibility, coming up with a way to communicate your why you, why this, and setting up that webinar funnel so that you could basically attract your ideal client, build your email list, continue the relationship with them, and then, nurture them either into your one-on-one or your group programs.
Yep.
So talk to us a little bit about the webinar funnel, how you've used them, talk about the technical aspects of it, the marketing aspects. Just share it with our audience.
Yeah, well, it's been brilliant for me because it gives me a focus for my marketing to try to get people onto the webinar, because I just want an opportunity to talk about what I know and how I can help people, right? So the webinar does that for me, and it gives me 40 minutes where I take people through the path of how I can help them, right? And then if they can see themselves in that, then they'll work with me, and it feels like just such a natural process. You get the right people who are ready to do it, and other people learn as well, and on the actual webinar, but they mightn't be ready to do the program or whatever. But yeah, it's been really, really positive for me.
I like some of the I'm going to say quirky, but they're not really quirky. They're really great customer service type things that you do. And one of the things that you talk about, that you talk to me about doing, is that when people register or they follow up, you actually send them a voice message or a text. So talk to us a little bit about that.
Yeah, it's Bonjoro. It's called. That is the app. So it's like when someone registers for the free giveaway on your website or registers for the webinar, it just alerts you, and you can just go straight to your phone, just do a quick 20-second hello. So it really personalizes there's someone real. When you join up for something, it just adds to that personal service, I think. So people actually think, oh, there's a real person here. This isn't just something I'm registering for. Because I think a lot of people are, a bit reluctant to give email addresses a lot of the time. So it's just when you've done that, then to get a personal message from someone just for you, I just think it takes some of that anxiety away.
Yeah, especially when you're dealing with people with anxiety.
Exactly, yeah.
Because there's a couple of things when it comes to webinar funnel. And the first thing is you've really got to know who your audience is, what they're struggling with, because the title is so incredibly important, because the title needs to qualify and disqualify the right and wrong people. From there, you've actually got to then market that webinar, and you've got to be able to get them, build that know, like, and trust, and actually then get them to give you that email address so that they actually are invested. But the third part of that is actually to get them to show up, because there's no point in having the email address. Ideally, what we want to do is be able to have a conversation with them. So getting them to show up is key. Once they show up, you then have to have a killer presentation that then takes them through where they're at and what you can actually do from them in a really personable way. And we do use a lot of NLP processes in the way that you actually line that presentation up as well. And that also, what comes into play with that is your presentation skills as well, and being able to transition from educating them and supporting them with where they're at, but also into helping them to make a decision to actually purchase and take the next step with you. And the last part of that is the F's, which I like to say, and that is following up and following through. And that is not like the people who've registered for your webinar. That's actually you. So many business owners go looking for that next lead when really they need to be following up with the leads that they've already had, those that did show up, those that didn't show up, through emails, through SMSs, through calling, and really just continuing that conversation with them afterwards, because there might be various reasons why they did or didn't actually show up. So I think it's really important that people understand the complexity of a webinar funnel, because people go, I'm doing webinar funnels. Well, I go, well, it's not converting, it's not working. So they're a great way to build your email list, a great way to increase your know, like, and trust online and build your visibility, and a great way for you to have to include in your marketing plan on an ongoing basis. So you also do live events now. So you're in Noosa, that's, and you are actually this year doing other events across Australia and even internationally, which is amazing for somebody who's anxious on stage. This is huge, and I think it's amazing. So talk to us a little bit about how the live events may differ a little.
Right. So I'm doing weekly ones. So I'm doing some scheduling suffering events weekly and breathwork as well. I'm doing monthly breakthrough breathwork events with an amazing musician called Jackie Sterling. And then I've got a workshop in Byron Bay at the end of May, and I've got a retreat in Bali in June. And they're basically two different type of events. So the Byron Bay one is for performance, for public speaking and for performers. And I'm doing that with my comedian friend, Vanessa Larry Mitchell, who is just she's one of the best comedians in Australia, I believe. And she's just in charge on the stage. She's amazing. And so she's doing that part of it, the actual stagecraft and that side of it. And I'm doing the anxiety part to get people through their nerves and so on. So really excited about that. That's starts Friday night on the 29th and goes through to the Sunday. And you'll actually do a presentation to the crowd. So that
Don't scare the people.
That might scare people off, but it's like this is
scheduled suffering.
Scheduled suffering, yeah. But as far as getting outside your comfort zone, because a lot of this stuff, it's theory, a lot of that people learn, but your nervous system,
you have to do it.
Your nervous system isn't interested in theory. It needs evidence, it needs proof, right? So I want to provide the proof. That's what scheduled suffering does, and that's what this workshop will provide as well. So that one is basically about, getting better, right? So then the Bali one is 5 days in Bali, and that's more a retreat. So that's kind of an escape from having to get better, having to be someone. It's sort of going through, there was a time back when I had, the meltdown with anxiety and so on, I was just so wound up, right? And so the Bali, I see it as that way where you're under a bit of stress and you just get to release that. You just come and let that go. Let go of that feeling that you're always having to be better and get back in touch with actually who you are, because we all get caught up in different roles and things that we play in life. This is just to get you back to, who you really are.
Or holidays are so important for that.
Yep.
Ongoing things like breath work is so important for that.
Yep.
We can talk about journaling and gratitude and all these things that, but they're all so important and, so important to do on an ongoing basis so that when you then go to do other things, you're not built up with anxiety already. You're actually got more of a cleaner state, to operate from.
Yeah. So I'm doing that with Cassie Tormey, who's, she's just amazing. One of the best presenters I've ever come across as well.
Yeah, excellent. Awesome. Well, it's been an absolute pleasure to have you. You've shared such gems here. So where can our audience connect with you?
Okay, my website is worldclassfriend.com. And I'm on socials on Instagram and Facebook at Damian Murdoch Mindset Coach.
Perfect. We'll put that in the show notes as well. So thank you so much for coming along today.
No worries. Thank you. Loved it.
So this is Chantal Gerardy from the Meaningful Marketing Podcast. If you haven't already, please leave a comment or rate us below. Be sure to also subscribe on the website, which is onlinebusinessmarketing.com.au, so you get the weekly podcast sent to your inbox. This has been another amazing episode of the Meaningful Marketing Podcast.